Hello, my name is Greg Ho. I'm president of Spring Mountain Capital and also co-author of an article titled The Sustainability of Endowment Spending Levels. One of the things we do in the investment industry is worry. We worry all the time, and we worry especially after we've achieved performance that is beyond our expectations. Now, as many of you know, in the 1990s through 2007, many endowments and institutional investors experience performance above their expectations. And then in 2008, they suffered significant losses, losses that we would consider to be impairment losses, i.e. losses that cause the institution to have to rethink its investment strategy, rethink its spending levels, and rethink its budget. Now, one of the questions we asked ourselves, and we addressed in our paper, was whether or not 2008 was an aberration or something that could occur again. Especially since, when we take a look at the world, there is no longer the tailwind of high interest rates and fixed income. There is slowing global and US growth. And the world seems to be becoming more and more competitive on the investment front. In our paper, we use a variety of statistical measures, and we found out, surprisingly, that the chances of an impairment event such as that which occurred in 2008 was much, much greater than what people had expected. After our article was published in the Journal of Portfolio Management, many institutional investors called us and asked us to rerun our statistical analyses for them with a variety of assumptions. We received so many requests that we decided to create an app titled the Endowment and Pension Fund Impairment Calculator, so that individuals could apply their own assumptions and test the interrelationship between performance expectations, volatility, spending levels, and underlying budgetary increases to see what the probabilities are with respect to the possibility of an impairment event occurring. Let me demonstrate the app. So here's our app. It allows for inputs in any of the gray boxes on the left-hand side. Let's start first with a simulation type using historical data. Let's define impairment instead of 10%. Let's define it at the portfolio being down 20% because of the success that endowments have had in the past bunch of years. Endowment spending levels have increased 4.5%. No, actually, let's choose 5%. Spending rates increases, budgetary increases have also been above US CPI, and so let's select 5% there. And for the preferred historical proxy, instead of using cash, let's use a blend of 60% of the S&P 500 and 40% of the 10-year bond rate. If we click all of those assumptions, we find that using data that goes 50 years back, thus generating 40 10-year periods, we find that in 7 of them, we would have breached our impairment level of 20%. 7 out of the 40 10-year periods from 1963. Let's vary, instead of using historical assumptions, forward-looking assumptions, i.e. let's plug in our own assumptions about return, volatility, and the time period. So now we have 3 more gray shaded boxes. And let's use here an average return rate realistically of, say, 8%, volatility of, say, 12%, and a time period of 10 years. We hit the calculate button, and lo and behold, we find that the probability that the net asset value of our endowment dipping below our impairment level at some time during the 10-year period is almost 33%. A much greater probability than many people suspect. Now, how could one address this? Well, for one thing, you could conceivably target a higher return rate of 9%, That would probably come with a higher volatility rate of 14%. And let's see if that does anything for us. Hit calculate, and we find that that does basically nothing. So we took our average return up by 1%, which brought on 2% more volatility, and the probability of our NAV dipping below the impairment level is still about 33%. So how else could we address this? Well, we could bring our spending levels down to 3.5% and then hit calculate. That has a major impact, as one can see, on the probability of an impairment event, bringing the probability down from 39% to 22%. Thus, our calculator is a handy way of projecting out or calculating statistically what the odds are of an impairment event. And once again, most people will find that the probability is much, much higher than one expects. If you download our app, you can get a brief explanation, you can have a replay of this YouTube video, and you can read our paper, which was published in the Journal of Portfolio Management. In addition, our friends at the Institutional Investor Journals have offered a discount for anyone who wishes to subscribe to their publication. Just click on the exclusive IIJ offer. Thank you very much for your attention.